Hello, everyone. Johnny here. I'm just going to do something a little different this time. I'm not going to read from any of my novels. I'm not going to recite any of my poetry, but I may do that later. What I'm doing today is I'm going to try and use the soporific qualities of my voice to make a sleep aid. I don't know if it will help, but I'd like to think that it will, and I want to give it a try because through my reading, I've helped a lot of people sleep. I have a soothing voice, and hopefully, my spirit is soothing as well as you are listening and hearing my words. I'd like you to think of me as a friend. Gonna stretch out really quick here. So much easier on my back. As I've gotten older, I've needed to spend a lot more time laying down. So, thanks for letting me get comfortable here. It's a nice place you got. And what's really great is I can see the sky. And it's a beautiful night tonight. I can see the stars. But there's also some clouds that I can see there in the moonlight. It's about as homey and pastoral an image as I could ask for. It's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just right. And the nighttime is always the time of magic. All of the most unbelievable things happen at night. I guess it's because it's the time that we associate with dreams. And our dreams are, well, they're special and they're personal. And ever since I was very small, I was a storyteller and I was a dreamer. My imagination stayed strong. And when I was very small, I was very taken by the TriStar Pictures logo. At the beginning of movies, there would be this triumphant brass music playing, these horns blowing, and a beautiful white horse running. And then suddenly, the horse grows these big white wings and takes flight as the music hits its climax. And then we have the logo. I really think they missed out on a grand opportunity to use that. They could have made a whole movie about a flying horse, and people would have bought it. Ah, it was a real heyday for fantasy back in the 1980s. And of course, people found a way to ruin it, but we won't talk about that. It was a time that was very ripe for fantasy and for horror as well, and dark fantasies as well as light and pleasant things. And for a very long time, I was just fascinated by winged horses. I'm going to keep saying winged horses because Pegasus was one specific horse. He was the stallion for the herd of Apollo's winged horses, and he showed up in a few different stories because he was special, he was significant. And then when I learned about unicorns, I was very taken with them as well. So beautiful, strong, and graceful unicorns and the winged horses. And as a small boy, maybe 4, I would talk to my mother sometimes at bedtime after sometimes reading a story or singing a song or two. And I would tell her stories in the limited way that I could about how I had my own herd of white horses, all of them white. And it was this beautiful image for me. And it wouldn't be until years and years later when I would hear all the pretty ponies. But that song, when I heard it, even as a very bitter and angry young man, it touched my heart in the tender places, and it awoke in me feelings of wanting to nurture, very sort of fatherly feelings. But as a boy, I dreamed of horses and wouldn't see one in real life for some time. And when I was 9 years old, I took to doodling, and I would draw unicorns, and I would draw them with little cutie marks like my little pony. And as I practiced, I got better, and I ended up having 2 separate herds of unicorns that I had drawn and given names to and made characters of. And I had a bit of embarrassment for my earlier drawings and characters because my art was cruder, less refined. And I never did become a very talented artist in terms of drawing, but I did during that year practice a lot and I got better and better at certain things. To this day, I can draw up a picture of a magical sword in just a few seconds. Uh, but young Johnny wrote little details, almost a micro story, a miniature fiction about these 2 herds of unicorns, and had them go to war, and then they made peace and joined their 2 herds together because they were discovering that they didn't really have much stomach for violence. They didn't want to hurt each other at all. And they were very mindful of those who they had lost in the fighting. Pretty serious, heavy stuff for a 9-year-old. And if anything, I probably took the inspiration from some of the stories of battles from the Book of Mormon, possibly the stories of the Jaredites and their very violent war of succession. It's hard to be sure. Memory is a funny thing, and our minds will lie to us, but I think it must have been around that time. And as I got older, I was less interested in winged horses and unicorns and became more interested in centaurs and minotaurs, the more physically powerful, the more intimidating creatures, because I was insecure and I wanted to project onto something that was strong and powerful and intimidating, the kind of creature that people leave alone. And that's what I wanted. I just wanted to be left alone. I was a big reader, of course, and a dreamer, and I wrote a lot of poetry and songs in those days. When I got to high school, I had just so many pages of poems and song lyrics that I had written. And I had also begun work on my first novel, which was about a family of minotaurs in a theocratic society. And I did so much work. I built their lore and their religion. I even created a lexicon for a language, which was just bastardized German with a few purely made up words here and there. But it was something. And unfortunately, all my songs and all the work I had done on that novel and the backup disc and the printed backup copies of the handwritten pages were all lost when someone stole my satchel. It's kind of one of those little things that is worthless to anyone else in the world, but utterly priceless to me. I often think back to that loss and I mourn the songs and the poems and the story. Even though I still have the story fresh in my mind, I will never write it because I'm simply not him anymore. I could never write what he had intended to write because I have since left the Mormon cult and I am fully atheist now. And while I have no trouble writing about fictitious religions, I don't think I can spend as much time on the philosophy and dogma that I had originally intended in that family saga, because faith was going to be a very important part of it, because in those days faith was very important to me. I was very dedicated to the cult because as far as I knew, it was the truth about the world and about God, about my place regarding both the world and God. But I am, as I said, no longer affiliated, and I have left those things behind. But dreams, I hold on to dreams. Dreams are special and precious. Your dreams are precious. And I may write songs again at some point, just as I finally took up writing stories again. Although for a very long time I was so afraid of losing my stories that I never wrote anything longer than a page or two. And I tried to get work writing articles on the internet back when that was a job that could be done. And for about a year, maybe 2 years, I worked really hard at that, writing articles on the internet, trying to write funny reviews of movies and video games, and creating homebrewed content for role playing games. It was a lot of fun for me to do that, to apply my creativity creativity to things like game mechanics and game balancing. And it was always very interesting to me to try to find ways that there would be a place for the things I created and that they would fit in to those game rules and settings. I have always preferred scenarios where everyone gets to win. And I have always been attracted to symmetry, especially the kind of symmetry that one finds by putting opposites together, like the yin yang. I even have a yin yang tattoo, and instead of the traditional circles, my yin yang tattoo has an open eye and a closed eye. The open eye, there in yin, watchful and wary. The closed eye for yang. He's been beaten down and tired, old yang. And then beneath the teardrop, a rain of other tears. It's a symbol I came up with while I was in basic training and had a friend draw it for me, and I held on to that drawing for a long time until I found a tattoo artist that I trusted to do it for me. And so it sits on my left bicep. What kind of things do you dream about? What are your special dreams? The ones that give you peace and lift you up? Is it a dream of having a lot of pets? A herd of white horses? Flying through the clouds? Seeing your reflection with the moonlight on a lake? Maybe having a garden filled with all the most beautiful and impossible things. It's my hope that the stories that I have shared with you will give you some comfort and some peace. Maybe think about your own past and your own dreams and what things stayed with you and were important to you. Maybe things that you put away, maybe things that you held on to. They're still important, even if they're only valuable to you. And I wish that I had the same kind of voice as that old radio DJ, the Nightbird. But I have this one, and so I'm going to use it the best I can. I hope you find rest. I hope you find peace. And I hope you give yourself grace. Until next time, I remain Scribbler Johnny, your friend.